I tend to think you're fearless when you recognize why you should be scared of things, but do them anyway. I do like taking stuff seriously that a lot of people look at as nonsense. I enjoy the insanity of that. And I like the commitment that is needed for that. All of the muscles were gone, so there was a real tough time of rebuilding all of that. But you have a deadline, you have an obligation. You've said that you will commit to this part, and I just can't live with myself for not really giving it as much as I can. I have this theory that, depending on your attitude, your life doesn't have to become this ridiculous charade that it seems so many people end up living. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. It's got to do with putting yourself in other people's shoes and seeing how far you can come to truly understand them. I like the empathy that comes from acting. The art of survival is a story that never ends. Whatever you do it completely. Don't do it half-assed. Do it more than anybody else would. If you're doing your job properly, you take the risk of feeling slightly foolish and delve in and bring out the emotions. Sometimes the truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people have got to have their faith rewarded. It was a great honor to be called a MOFO by Sam Jackson. All I've ever ended up with in terms of achievements is the movie, some really stupid anecdotes, a bunch of crosswords that I didn't finish, and maybe some old bicycle that I found lying around on set. We're all conning ourselves one way or another just to get through life. And I not only inherited an aversion to the 9-to-5 routine, but a sense from my parents that being bored and boring is the worst thing that you can be. I never, in any city I've ever been in, never remember the names of streets. The longest place I ever lived in was for 5 years, and I didn't know the name of the next street over. For me, I think the harder the shoot, the more I feel like I'm enjoying myself. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. I like being responsible for myself. It's the actors who are prepared to make fools of themselves who are usually the ones who come to mean something to the audience. We're all counting ourselves one way or another just to get. Any planning that I have in my career is totally accidental, really. It's about pursuing it rather than waiting to see what comes along. You have to treat yourself like a mushroom to some degree in order to keep on discovering things. After the modest success of my first film, I found it very daunting to have to live with that kind of burden of expectations. My dad was the biggest influence on my life because he was never boring. You say something bad about Newsies and you have an awful lot of people to answer to. Being misunderstood is not a bad thing as an actor. I know the truth. There's a level of confidence in the actor you're working with that really helps a lot. It makes all the difference. Art is something to be proud of. Art is no compromise. As an actor, you're giving it up, you're at the mercy of so many other people. There's nothing like boxing for getting you in shape. I've had some painful experiences in my life, but I feel like I'm trivializing them by using them for a scene in a movie. I don't want to do that. It just makes me feel kind of dirty for having done that. I went backwards and forwards over it until I was 22. And then in the past few years I began to say to myself, okay, look, I'm not messing around. This is something I want to attack, instead of thinking, I'll just see what happens with it. I have a fear of being boring. But I learned that there's a certain character that can be built from embarrassing yourself endlessly. If you can sit happy with embarrassment, there's not much else that can really get to you. I never want to feel that I'm playing it safe. It's about pursuing it rather than waiting to see what comes along. That's partly because I found myself getting typecast, as everyone does unless they pursue roles that are very different from what they've done before. One of the places where we lived when I was growing up had this big wood out the back. And starting when I was about 8, I used to enjoy just walking alone through the wood late. 11 p.m. midnight. Later. I tend to think you're fearless when you recognize why you should be scared of things, but do them anyway. If you're smart, you're just gonna be all about the work. But as a young person, you want to going out to clubs and doing all the stuff. I'm just glad I survived it. I want to do good work. I want the opportunity to work with good people, and the only way I'm gonna do that is to commit 110%. You get out what you put in.